It used to be that every entertainer had to know how to sing, tap dance, and juggle. These days, that last skill, juggling, has become a prerequisite for many executives, especially those with global responsibilities in fast-paced industries. Stay with us today, and you'll hear the insights of a fascinating global life sciences and finance executive, where juggling is certainly not her only expertise. Welcome to CFOIQ, where CFOs share insights and intelligence on innovative growth strategies and the experiences that drive success for their companies and themselves. I'm your host, Andy Zizas. On today's show, I'm joined by long-term friend and impressive global business and finance executive, Mila Tartakovsky. Mila is head of U.S. finance and global oncology finance at Daiichi Sankyo. In her role, she's responsible for evaluating the operating performance, focusing on achieving profitable growth, and supporting the long-term strategic vision of Daiichi Sankyo. Mila leads a team of finance business partners, providing guidance to the oncology business unit in Europe and the U.S., and she's also responsible for overseeing the entire financial affairs of Daiichi Sankyo in the U.S. At a recent CFO intelligence gathering, Mila led a very exciting discussion among female finance executives, and that conversation was entitled Sustaining High Performance, Balancing a Global Career, Leadership, Family, and Life. Today, Mila is going to share some interesting thoughts with us. Mila, it's always so nice to chat with you. I'm so glad you agreed to join us here on CFOIQ. Good morning.
Good morning, Andy, and thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure.
It's always great to see you, Mila. So let's talk about some of your ideas and some of the experiences you've shared. You've led global initiatives while raising a family, supporting a once-in-a-lifetime personal milestones, I should say. And why don't you walk us through your background and tell us what last year looked like for you?
Thank you, Andy. And I think you shared a lot about my background. As you said, I lead U.S. finance for Daiichi Sankyo. Daiichi Sankyo is a Japanese pharmaceutical company. We are known for our oncology portfolio. And as you mentioned, my scope of work at Daiichi Sankyo, I lead U.S. finance, and it includes your typical FP&A, business partnering, accounting, tax, treasury, but also in addition to that, my team covers procurement, meetings, travel and events. So this is my U.S. responsibility. But our company has been undergoing some transformation, and in the past few years, we've been going through globalization initiatives. At the same time, we are launching a global ERP system. So a lot of people in the audience probably have gone through that and understand that it's a long journey and quite a challenging one. So we're moving through from 3 different systems into one, which meant that I had to shift some of the mindset from being focused on the U.S. performance and being supporting just our oncology team in the U.S. and Europe, but also looking at the global performance, global vision, meaning building new relationships, a lot of travel to Europe and Japan. On my personal side, my life is not much calmer, I would say, or it hasn't been in the last couple of years. I have 2 daughters. They're 25 and 28. Last year, my younger daughter, she competed and she qualified for the 2024 Paris Olympics. And she competed for the United States in saber fencing. So it was quite a journey.
So let me interrupt you. What's it like to have a daughter who is who's competing in fencing for the United States and actually went to Paris? That must have been incredibly exciting for you.
Incredibly exciting, yes. Nerve-wracking at the same time. But I think it's going to the Olympics and being there when she walks on that in that venue is incredibly exciting. But the whole process of getting there is quite challenging, right? And when she told us that this is her goal, that she wants to try out for the team, we thought that it's an incredible opportunity and we need to support her with that. So my husband and I tried to do as much as we could. We traveled to a lot of her qualifying events in Europe, in Asia, and in the US. So it was quite a lot. In addition to a lot of travel for my work.
Well, I remember your schedule last year. You were
Yeah,
constantly traveling. I mean,
constantly, yes,
yeah.
constantly. It was quite a year. It was quite a year. But in addition to that, my older daughter, she planned her wedding just a few weeks after the Olympics, and she planned her wedding in France. So we hosted a 300 people destination, 300 guest destination wedding in France.
Wow.
So
Wow. Oh, so you had a year to remember.
we had a year to remember. That's right.
Okay. So from where I stand from the outside, it certainly looks like you were balancing a lot of big things, both professionally and personally. What was happening underneath? I mean, you've always impressed me with someone who's got it together. You never appeared to be stressed to me, but and I'm not focusing on stress, but you always look like you're everything is moving smoothly. What was happening underneath? How did you actually navigate all of this that you had to do? A wedding, the Olympics, everything leading up to the Olympics. Oh, and by the way, a major career as a senior finance executive for a global pharmaceutical company.
It was not glamorous, Andy. It was a lot of juggling. And yes, it was a year to remember it. And I had to learn to lean on support network. And I don't have a perfect system, right? It's very difficult to juggle all of that. And I don't think it's just because I had a year of a lot of lifetime events or milestones, great milestones. I think everyone's circumstances are different but we're all juggling. And I think it's a process of learning to do that. It didn't go all as planned. There was a lot of emotion involved. And on the surface, we all came and we smiled, but back, it was, how do we support Elizabeth, who just lost one of her competition and didn't perform as well as she hoped? How do I support Gabby when she's stressing out what color, what font on her wedding invitation should be? How do I support my team when we have major deliverables and I'm scheduled to travel somewhere? So a lot of that was a lot of juggling, and I had to lean on my team a lot, and they stepped up incredibly. They really raised to the occasion. We worked it out. I was providing guidance, I was providing vision, and I leaned on them, tried to give them confidence that they can make decisions and they can drive them and bring me in when they thought that they needed advice or they needed to let me know something. I leaned on my husband. And we shared our travel destinations to support Elizabeth. I picked Greece and Belgium and France, and he had to go to Algiers and Cleveland. It's fair, right?
Well, it sounds like you had two very good teams. Certainly one at home and one in your office. But having teams that work well, whether they're personal teams or professional teams, has an awful lot to do with quality leadership and giving the teams, empowering the teams and setting them on a path. And, we've talked about leadership before, and you've said that your leadership style in particular, has evolved over time. So talk about that evolution. What's the journey look like for how your leadership style has evolved?
Um, I think when I started leading people, for me, leadership was having all the answers. And having all the answers, being involved in all the decisions, making all the decisions, reviewing every single deck that went out from our team. And eventually I realized that this is not leadership, this is micromanagement. And I needed to let go. And leadership now is really empowering the people that support me, empowering them to step up, learn, and lead themselves. And I think I learned leadership again from mistakes that I've been making, from observing other leaders, and working with executive coaches, and quite honestly, from being a parent. I think my leadership has evolved just as my role as a parent has evolved as well. And I learned to be a better mom by leading a team. I learned to be a better leader by being a mom. When you have young children, you try to hover over them and do everything for them, and you want to make sure that they don't step something or don't do something wrong. And I think as a early leader, you sort of do something very similar. And then you realize that as a parent, you realize that my job as a parent is to raise an independent, well-functioning and good human being, an adult. And you start giving guidance, you start giving advice, you let your children make their own mistakes and understand the consequences. I thought that leadership is not any different. It's letting your team members make mistakes, providing them guidance, giving them support, coaching from the sidelines, observing, letting them make mistakes, learn, and move forward.
Talk about that, because I've heard you use that term before, and I think we both agree an essential part of leadership is coaching. But the term you just used, I've heard you say, coaching from the sidelines. What does that mean? And share with me, how has that shown up at work and at home?
I think to me, it's being present, being there, but not being in the middle of it. So if I think about it, right, and I will give being a parent of an athlete is quite a good example. So if I'm there with Elizabeth, I'm not on a strip with her fencing. I'm just there to support, provide guidance, provide that, give her confidence that she can do it. And the same thing with at work with my team. I'm there empowering and trying to ask, we having conversation, how are you going to lead this conversation, this difficult conversation with your business partner, right? What do you need from me? How do you think it will go? Have you thought about this? So I'm not in the decision. I'm not in a discussion. I'm not interrupting, and I'm not there overseeing that conversation, but I'm providing support, guidance, and coaching. And then we discuss, how did it go? What did you think? What did you learn? What do you think we can do differently next time?
And when we're coaching the people who work with us, and I've heard you say leadership, I've heard you say team, and I've heard you say coaching. And all of that comes together so we can drive performance, yes?
That's right.
And I've seen your team perform, and they perform very well. So your leadership and your coaching and your approach apparently is working well. And I'm certainly it works just as well in your family. But let's talk about performance. So define, given the very funky business climate that we find ourselves in today, across the globe, define high performance for me and for our audience, and share with me, what helps you sustain it in your team?
And you're right. Right now, especially, we have such a dynamic business environment. It's a lot of moving parts, and I think high performance today, it's a lot of resilience. It's a lot of learning. It's taking calculated risks and learning from them, adjusting, and moving forward. And I think it's very important to have that loop of understanding what risks we're going to take, understanding the potential consequences, taking the risks, looking back at it and our actions, learning from them and saying, can we continue? Should we make the adjustment? Because we don't have all the information, right? We never will have the information. So it's okay to be wrong. And I think it was very important for us to create that sense of psychological safety on the team that, yes, we will never have all the information that we need to make a decision, but it's important to make a decision in order to move forward. So we're making a decision. We're making a decision and if it's wrong, we get back and we say, okay, what did go wrong? What should we change? What else should we try? And how do we move forward from that? I think that is a big part of leadership, and I think it's a big part of coaching, and that really supports the high performance for the team.
And it's apparent because I've seen the results in your organization. So that style certainly has worked well for your team.
Yeah.
Let me switch gears with you for a minute. Let's talk again. We've talked about the fact that you've had an incredibly busy travel schedule. So not only with your family, but certainly with your team, how do you stay connected and lead across multiple cultures and multiple time zones while you're constantly on the move?
So I think during COVID, right, the technology has evolved significantly. So now it allows us to stay connected across different regions. And that's great. We start the day with our calls with Japan and Europe. Then we go and we work in our own time zone in the US, and then in the evening we continue with our calls to Japan. I think so. The technology allows to bridge those geographical barriers. I think the challenge today is the cultural. It's bridging that cultural barrier, and it was again a learning journey, and I'm still learning. I think the Western and Eastern cultures is so different, and it's fascinating to learn that. It's fascinating to build the relationships. I think our early conversations were when we have the mixed team, it would be a conversation between US and European colleagues, and our Japanese colleagues stay very, very quiet. So I think after a while, we learned that we have to pause and we have to give them space, and we have to think through, and we have to provide them or ask them questions to actually encourage them to speak up. And it's been an adjustment for all of us. So it's not the technology, it's just a learning journey. And I share that experience with our team. And every time we have a call with Japan, I say, don't forget to slow down. Don't forget to enunciate the words. Don't forget, do not use idioms in your speech. So it's a lot of that. And I think we also have learned, because of the demanding schedule, and we start very early, sometimes we have very late calls, we learn to be flexible and allow flexibility during the day so that we can sustain this high performance in our uh, there is no 9 to 5, right? It's now 6 to 9. So I think just being flexible again and leaning on each other and trying to help each other out.
Well, it sounds like in driving high performance, you tend to not only lead, but you're still that coach. You're still coaching. It sounds like you're guiding and you're supporting. And that's one of the ways that you've been so successful in driving performance. So you talked about making decisions, and sometimes you have to make decisions when you don't have access to everything that you would hope to have, all the information, but you make decisions nonetheless. I would imagine also in your career as a leader, there have been moments where you've had to make hard choices. What have those circumstances taught you as a leader and a coach?
I think it's difficult to say hard choices, right? It's difficult to pinpoint just one and say, well, that was a really hard choice. I think it's a combination of all the small sacrifices and all the small trade-offs that you have to do on a regular basis. Like, do we take on the project that seems to be interesting, or but we are, I know that we don't have the bandwidth, or I know that we don't have the capacity. What do we give up? What do I give up? When I have to make choices between, hey, I need to attend this family event, and but I also have a travel scheduled to Japan or Europe, a business travel. So, or do I go to this conference, which sounds interesting? Do I attend dinner with Andy when I have to go when I have to travel the next day? And these choices seem very hard in the moment. And I think I have to make a decision. And at the same time, I understand that I will never reach perfection. And it's okay to be at, I think, 80% perfect or and in trying to give myself and my team some compassion and forgiveness for not being perfect. And a lot of times, listen, I come back and there are a lot of emails that are not being answered, and I'm really grateful for my colleagues that remind me very graciously, Mila, just, we need this answer soon or now. And they're being very patient, and we try to do that as well. I think what helps is, and that actually goes about leading across cultures. It helps to have a positive intent. So a lot of things get lost in translation, and when we communicate between cultures, a lot of things get missed when you read an email or text because there is no emotion and it's a different communication than in person. And sometimes when you type in stressed and you read a short email, you tend to react, and then like, why am I getting this? And then I think pausing, slowing down, and say, no. We're all trying to achieve the same thing. It must have been written with a positive intent to get things done rather than judgment and blame. So when you assume positive intent, it's easier to get through this, and the choices that you make become easier to make. And then I realized that something that seems extremely important and hard today might not be important tomorrow. So you know what? I'll try it again. It's life.
You used two interesting terms. You said compassion and forgiveness. Tell me more about how compassion and forgiveness work into your corporate life.
On my leadership journey, I started working with executive coaches, and it took me some time to figure out what kind of leader I wanted to be. And then after a while, I developed my leadership vision. My leadership vision to be curious, compassionate, and confident leader. So what does compassion mean for me? It means that I come into every conversation with a positive intent or assuming positive intent. And I come to learn and I try to help. I'm asking, how can I be helpful to you in this situation? So that's compassion in the work environment. And compassion to myself and to my team is the same. We all want to achieve 100%, right? And if we don't, we start blaming ourselves. Oh my God, I can't believe I can't believe I didn't do it. And I think just being compassionate that it's okay, it's life. Things will not happen the way it all planned. It was all planned. And we can move forward from that and learn from that. I think that's what compassion means as well. And I mentioned before, I really like Ted Lasso show. And if someone hasn't watched it, I highly recommend it. But there is I think one part of the show really stuck with me, and that's describes compassion, I think, for me as well. When Ted Lasso is talking to his team, he says, "You have to believe that everything will work out, and might not work out how you've planned it. It might not work out how you wanted it, but it will all work out." So for me, when I'm stressed and when I'm tired, I lean into this phrase and I think, it's okay. It will all work out.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And very, very wise thought to not only from an individual's perspective, but also in terms of how you communicate that to leadership, to your team. Because if the team recognizes in its leader that there's stress and, oh my gosh, well, what's going to happen? Well, then that trickles down to their perspective. And if conversely, your team recognizes in you that you have the confidence and the solid foundation, knowing that it will work out, that will translate to your team. And apparently it does. So let me ask you one last question, Mila. So first of all, this has been tremendous. I'm so grateful for your thoughts. A lot of the folks who will be watching this discussion, your peers, and those who aspire to become your peers, they're also trying to figure it out in this very rapidly changing, very unusual business climate.
Right.
What would you say to someone, again, who is either your peer now or hopes to become your peer, who's trying to do it all right now? Someone who's juggling work and family and life and leadership. What guidance would you give to them?
I would say it's okay to accept to not be perfect. And I think find the support network. Start leaning on people that you trust and share the feedback. So it's all that we've talked about, right? It's understanding who you can trust, understanding how you can lean on them, and it doesn't need to be done just your way. It's okay if they will support you, but they will do it in their own way. It's I think allowing flexibility is important, and sometimes 80% is good enough. So that's why that would be
great. That's great, Mila. So the words that I'm going to leave our interview with today that you've shared with us are leadership, coaching, compassion and forgiveness and high performance. All of that equates to high performance. That's fantastic. Mila, this has been tremendous. I enjoyed talking with you today. I always enjoy talking with you. I'm so glad that we know each other and that we have an opportunity to get together once in a while. This has been a lot of fun. I'd like to thank you very, very much for speaking so openly from your heart. I'm sure our audience and your CFO peers will get a lot out of today's discussion and your shared experiences. Thanks so much for being with us today, Mila.
Andy, thank you so much for inviting me here. And it has been a lot of fun. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us also today. If you'd like to learn more about Mila Tartakovsky, visit our website at CFOIQ.com. If you'd like to be considered for a CFOIQ interview or for a business story to appear in CFO Intelligence magazine, or if you just have some really great ideas that you'd like us to explore, email me at andrew.zizas@cfointel with 2 L's.com and let me know your thoughts. Join us again here on CFOIQ for our next interview with aviation executive and former CFO of Dassault Falcon Jet and Honda Jet, Claude Dreyard. Claude's an incredibly dynamic executive. He'll share his views on the international trade situation and what the future holds for the aerospace industry. Thanks very much for joining us here on CFOIQ. I'm Andrew Zizas, your host. Look forward to seeing you again.
For booking inquiries, please visit www.cfoiq.com or email andrew.zizas@cfointell.com.